Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is your...
Now, I understand everyone's shit's emotional right now, but listen up.
Photo News Fix. This fix is brought to you by Raw Talk, our weekly photography podcast that comes out every Friday. If you like photography discussions that end up going off the rails, well, Raw Talk is for you. Give it a listen wherever you get your podcasts, or head on over to FroKnowsPhoto.com/podcast for more. First up, is this the Canon EOS R1?
No.
Thanks, Norm, but no one actually asked you. Anyway, this photo and video clip were posted on Twitter by a Guy Fieri lookalike who goes by the handle of Chelko. Chelko shared some screen grabs as well as some video of his TV. Now keep that in mind as we move forward, by the way, because he filmed his TV from the G7 summit, which is being held in Hiroshima, Japan. Now here's what I can do. I can confirm that the camera in the screen grab and video in fact are one strange looking bird. And that's AREONE, by the way. Sure, the camera looks like no other camera that we've seen before, but I think there's an explanation for all of this. One. Chelko is still using a TiVo in 2023. Two. He is filming a screen on an angle. Three. The camera filming the suspected R1 is at a distance as well as an angle, which leads to my conclusion that
you are not.
That it's not actually an R1, but either an R3 or possibly an R5 with a grip. Now, I should also mention that if someone is testing out an R1 right now, they're more than likely not using it in the wild at the G7 summit. Kind of like, what is this guy trying to hide?
I'm not at liberty to say.
The moral of the story is, I don't think it's actually an R1. And the second moral of the story is, could you please give this video a thumbs up? Because I hear YouTube is actually using the thumbs up as a metric again, so I'd greatly appreciate it. Dang. Next up, it looks like Canon rumors know something no one else does about a forthcoming massive RF lens. According to them, a Canon RF 200 to 500 f4 has been confirmed and might be here as soon as Q4 of 2023 or sometime in the first quarter of 2024. Now, I needed to do a double take when reading the rumored specs, as I expected this lens to have a built-in TC, but it just looks like it's going to be a 200 to 500 f4 with a possible updated converter coming in the near future. Now, Canon currently sells an EF 200 to 400 f4 IS with a built-in 1.4 TC for $11,000. Now, that's been a super popular lens for news agencies who cover sporting events and spot news, who care more about simply getting images out quickly than anything else. Now, maybe Canon's onto something with leaving out the TC. One, it takes some weight out, and two, the 200 to 400 with the TC in gave you a 560mm 5.6. If this lens is a 200 to 500 without the TC, you're not really sacrificing that much, and you're gaining a lot more by staying at f4.
That shit right.
If this lens is real, I would suspect that it's going to cost anywhere from $12,000 to $14,000. What do you think it's going to cost? Next up, Sony announced the replacement to their ZV-1 vlogging camera, and it's not called the ZV-2.
What's it called?
It's called the ZV-1 Mark II. The Mark II doesn't change a ton from the original, but what did change is something we all complained about early on, the focal length. The original sported a 24 to 70 equivalent zoom lens, whereas the new Mark II opted to go wider. You now have an 18 to 50 equivalent range, which is much better when you're doing the one thing that this camera is designed for, which is talking directly to the camera in vlogging style. Quickly running down the specs, the Mark II has a 1-inch stacked sensor, which gives you an extremely fast readout speed for stills as well as video. This camera isn't meant for stills because it doesn't have an EVF. And if you don't use an EVF when you're shooting, you should be punched in the freaking face.
It hit me in the ear.
It also offers you real-time tracking with IAF for humans and animals, built-in 3-stop ND filter, which comes in handy on bright days, a cinematic vlog setting that adds black bars to give you that cinematic look, intelligent 3-directional mic, vari-angle touchscreen, microphone input, USB-C port, and a bunch of other features that most people will probably never use. Now, I took it out to Lamborghini of Philadelphia, where I surprised my 8-year-old nephew with a tour and a test drive.
It's a Lamborghini place, and I want one. And also, if you're watching this, subscribe.
Now, I shot this camera 2 different ways. One full auto, which I think the majority of the people will shoot in, and the other with a locked-in exposure and auto ISO for video. The video quality looks pretty good and the intelligent mic does do a great job. If you think this camera is for you, get ready to fork over $899, which is $150 more than the original ZV-1. And if you're in Canada, well, it's gonna set you back a lot of loonies and toonies.
We're tiny, we're toony, we're all a little loony.
And finally, not to be outshined by Sony's new camera, Canon was like, here, we got a new camera too. Introducing the R100, not the R1, but the 100, the smallest and lightest body in the R series. Now here I thought the R50 was gonna be the lowest level entry camera that they offered, but I guess the higher the number, the cheaper the camera. Now you know how some cameras have all the bells and whistles? Well, this camera got rid of all of the bells and the whistles and just stripped it down to the very basics and fundamentals. The R100 sports a 24 megapixel APS-C sensor wrapped in a body that's lighter than the R50, sports a Digic 8 processor, not the 10, does have an R mount, offers dual pixel AF with eye detection, keeps a 2.36 million dot EVF, which is something that I thought they would do away with a camera like this. It has a 3-inch screen, well, that doesn't flip out, and get this, you can't touch it.
Touch this.
Now, if there was one feature that I would think a super entry-level camera would have, well, a touchscreen would be it. But at $479 for the body only and $599 with an 18-45 RF kit lens, well, you had to make some sacrifices somewhere. It's kind of like expecting Drake, but getting Walmart Drake instead. Now, I do think this is going to be a big seller for years to come at the price point that it's at BJ's, Costco's, as well as Walmart, and probably Best Buy. Anyway, there you have it. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.